Hi everyone. Today I want to talk to you about um, manipulation. Manipulation. And the reason for that is that there is so much going on between people in not only in a work environment, but also in families and between friends, and it all seems so innocent, when you sort of look at it, but really deep down, it is really not a good thing. Okay, so what am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about that most likely most of us get to experience and learn this manipulation bit when we are kids, and then we just carry it on from our parents, which of course carried it on from their parents, and it becomes sort of, yeah, so ingrained that every one of us um, you know, is using this, if I can put it that way. Okay. So what is the manipulation? Manipulation is based on emotions, right? It's the idea of that if you do something for me, then I will do something for you, or if I love you, then of course you will do this for me, and so forth, right? And again, as I said before, it starts at the parenting level as such, and if you are aware of it, maybe try to stop it a little bit, because maybe break the cycle a little bit, if you like, or altogether, right? See, what we do is we have these two different kinds of kids or children, and some are just so sweet, aren't they? They just, whatever, they start as babies and they just wake up and have some food, do a little poo, and then go to sleep again, and you think, wow, this is so great, like having kids is so easy. Look at this, right? And then you get suddenly number two kids, and that is a total brat, right? Total brat. It never sleeps, right? And when it does, it wakes up like every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes, and demand immediate attention. It screams and yells and all kinds of things, and you are going absolutely crazy, right? Now I have been there and done that, and I got the T-shirt to prove that too. And it's really not a fun thing. And mostly, I went to the prenatal classes and learned how to put nappies and all that, because I wanted to be like an active father, and I think I did reasonably well on a normal standard, so to speak. I certainly have had my share of changing nappies and feeding with bottles and all kinds of things. One of my daughters has an affliction to milk, to animal produce like that, and had to be brought up by soy milk and all this sort of thing, soy cheese and whatever, which was not such a big problem. But of course, when my wife was breastfeeding at the time, it's a little bit of a concern, because you can't just put the baby on the nipple, so to speak, right? So yeah, but look, then what happens, of course, is that you sit down, or you in your mind you think sometime, God, what is this? You get this kamikaze pilot, and all they want to do is make trouble for you, and your life turn upside down. I always joke about it, saying, like, the last time I slept properly was before I had children, because after that my sleep was disturbed and totally ruined ever since, right? And there's some truth in that. Some of you out there will go, yeah, you're right, Nick, you're right. And yeah, there's so many little different things in these classes that maybe could be taught, and there's a long list of things I can think of, and maybe I'll try and see if I can think of making another video about that at some point. But at this time, I'm talking about the actual manipulation that goes on there, and which carries on in life later. Okay, so our kids are misbehaving, right? They're not actually. What do you mean by what do I mean by misbehaving? Well, misbehaving is when they don't do what you have in mind for them to do, right? Yeah. Then and we're talking about sort of loving our kids, constantly and without sort of reserve. But it's really difficult sometimes because you also feel the responsibility of being a good parent, right? So there's sort of like a bit of a negotiation happening there about, well, the kid should really eat its vegetables, but should you force it, or should you, whatever. When they misbehave, how should you handle that? Your mother or mother-in-law maybe always say, oh, well, my kids, they always got a good slap, that you're being too soft, you're being too this, you're being too that. And I'm right when I'm saying that. You get all these great advice from all different people about how you should bring up your kids, right? And in the start you are very agreeable and very appreciative for all this advice, but to sort of exert unconditional love. That's what it is, right? Unconditional love is like, no matter what the kids do. And I used to do that. I used to tell my daughters, I say, look, I don't care what you do, I will always love you. But your behavior, how you act out, is something that we need to talk about. Excuse me. So that's something that I want to address a little bit today. And again, I don't know everything, but surely some of the experience that I've had may or may not help you in raising your family, right? So coming home with the baby, of course, you have the washing bit and the learning to eat, proper food or whatever. And but after that, you sort of start noticing different traits about the different children. If you have two at the same time, maybe even straight away. But definitely, if you have one first and that baby is really quiet and very sleepy and very happy, then that is the sign of things to come. I can guarantee you that, right? So if you had number two, and that kid doesn't sort of respond the same way as the first one, well, you have, a little warrior there, right? Girl or boy, it doesn't make any difference, right? And you can come across other things like intolerances to as I said, to dairy and to different substances or whatever it is, yeah. But so how do we handle all this, right? Well, number one thing, I have mentioned that previously in another video, is that we must observe their time to rest, right? I think that's really, really important, right? And unlike, I should say, many parents in China, the kids should not stay up to 11, 12 o'clock at night whenever they feel like going to bed. You are the parent. You're not their friend or their schoolmate or that. You're a parent, and as such, you must set the discipline. And remember, kids equate love with discipline. I don't mean like discipline as in the army and you have to be a sergeant or a captain or whatever. No, I mean with set programs. The sooner you can get set programs happening, in a business you have systems and processes, and you should have a little bit of that happening at home too, right? So the kid sleeps at certain times, it wakes up at certain times, it has lunch at certain times, and it goes to bed at certain times, right? The quicker you can get that happening, the quicker, the child will adjust to that. Now, that doesn't mean that they will easily adjust to it. That just means that you have a program and this is what's going to happen, and you must stick to your guns and just keep pushing the fact, right? I remember one of my girls never wanted to go to sleep, right? I mean, it was like I would take her, put her into bed, and then I would be halfway out the door and she was already out of bed again. And whenever I put her back in again, she would scream and yell so much that her mother would be coming thinking I'm mistreating the kid, And but I was really persistent, and it took me 3.5 days. something similar to that, a lot of screaming and yelling and listening to that and just being patient and saying, no, back into bed, back into bed, back into bed. I probably said that 1,000 times, right? And eventually, my daughter got the message, and from then on, there was no problems at all for the next 20 years, right? So it's definitely worth it, We'll kiss and hug, and I'll come in and tell a story, and then, she'll be so happy and sweet and go to bed, and that's it, stay in her bed also. Even on the rare occasion that when she did wake up in the middle of the night and came out, then there's no problem, just lead her back to the bed again and boom, back to sleep again, just spend a few minutes, and then no problem. And that's what you can look forward to, because otherwise what happens is that you and your spouse never get a chance to actually have a relationship. It's all about the kids 24 hours. You wake up in the morning and maybe go to work, maybe do things or whatever. And then suddenly, you come home and the kids is all around you until 11 o'clock at night, and then you have no time. Now, you know as well as I do that there's a difference between a parent and then, like someone who is just existing. And this is really, really important for your relationship, that you sort of just realize, hey, okay, yeah, let me just be realistic here. The kids needs to be in bed at 7 or 8 o'clock. Though I want to be a loving mother, loving father, loving whatever, the kids need their sleep, and you need to spend time with your spouse, right? Because what happens if not? Well, you are making a dividing road, and that dividing road can lead anywhere. So, okay, let's assume that we have covered that part of it. Then the next part of it is that many parents start using different things. I remember when I was a little, the policeman or the dentist or the teacher or whatever was what people used in those days. And if you don't behave yourself, then, this person will come and get you, right, so to speak, right? In the Philippines, I believe it's really, really a whole culture there. That's like half posters of ghostly horrors flying around, and they come and take the kids if they don't behave themselves, right? The problem with this, the boogeyman is another one. I think, I'm not sure whether that's English or American, but the boogeyman, right? The boogeyman will get you, right? But what we're setting up there in the minds of the children is, some sort of a scary thing that they don't know what it is, they never see, but they fear it so bad, and later in life, it does not leave them, right? It's there. I still, when I'm driving down the road and I'm no puppy anymore, and I have a police car coming up behind me, I get this chill in my body, go, whoo, and am I driving straight? Am I going straight forward? Am I driving too fast? Am I, this sort of thing. And it's ridiculous, when you catch yourself in it, you think, God, where's that coming from? Right? But I remember that when I was a little, my mother would obviously enforce. Now, I was separated, my mom and dad were separated in an early time, so of course she used that as a bit of a, I was not an easy child, I must say that. I was very, bad behavior, I suppose. So I certainly excuse her for having some sort of a thing to do something. So, but nevertheless, it was something I definitely could have been without, right? See, what we need to do as a parents, we need to reinforce their strengths and their power, so that when they grow up, they can handle the world, right? You imagine somebody's going to go up and climb a mountain, right? And you're standing down at the base of the mountain, and you go, yeah, look, well, it is a big mountain, and you could fall over and you could kill yourself. And look, there's rocks that could fall on you, and there's, you could slip and slide and cut yourself, and there's spiders and snakes and probably bears and wolves and all kinds of things, but, by all means, enjoy yourself and have fun, right? I mean, you can hear how that is sort of like, a catch-22. You are sending them on their merry way, but you are filling them with all your fears about what's going to happen. But the fact is really that nothing is going to happen. This is a very safe world. When you think of it, you've lived here for I don't know how many years in your case, but nothing has ever happened to you, And in fact, if you don't go and do something, it probably can be boring sometimes, right? There's no good-looking muckings and rapes and stuff and whatever happening, It's all like just day-to-day routine. So do not transfer all your fears to your children. That's really the worst thing you can do. And the opposite effect is the case, because we get, and our kids get, exactly what we think about mostly all day, and we end up believing, right? So if you're telling your kids, right, listen, you must be aware of these bad people, and you must be aware of these bad circumstances or whatever, and we keep reinforcing it, we're trying to think that, to prevent them from having trouble. But really what we are doing is we are bringing trouble right into their lives, because whatever they think about, whatever they're scared about, they will attract to themselves, and they will have it, manifesting in their lives. Right? Now, if you don't believe what I'm saying, then I'm sorry, then you probably should spend some time just educating yourself on how the mind works and what happens, right? Because it's absolutely true what I'm saying, right? Whatever you think about all day is what you're getting, right? So if you have fears about, people breaking into your house, you can bet your life that one day somebody's going to do that, right? So, but also on the other hand, that if you are happy and you think that the world is a happy place, and all the people you meet are happy and nobody wants to hurt you, well, this is probably mostly what you will have. Is there occasions where that's not the case? Well, maybe I'm not the guru of everything, but if it happens, well, you just keep going. At least, if you aim for the moon and you miss, you're still in the stars, okay? So this is very important that we do that. Okay, let's talk this manipulation thing, right? So we are trying to use these things to get our kids to do what they want, what you want them to do. And it's not like forcing them, right? It's not like, if you don't do that, I will smack you. That's also a kind of manipulation, and that's probably the worst form of manipulation, is because you are really, really, really imposing your big personality and sounds and character and the whole thing. You imagine yourself being a little person, and this towering giant is leaning over you with evil eyes and everything. You will do what I say, right? And I must admit, I used to do that when I was younger, until one day I realized this is all wrong. My goodness me, I'm hurting my children like that, and I stopped it, luckily, when they were very small. So I never carried it on since then, right? I very, very, very rarely ever imposed my will on them since that time, yeah? Now, does that mean I just accepted everything? No, I found other ways of doing it, and those ways were much, much better. Let's say you have, here's comes in the study of different personalities, which I covered in another video, right? Or another article or post on the site, yeah? But different personalities are really, really difficult. If you get like a child who's got a really, really hard personality, then, and you are a really hard case personality too, well, you got war, haven't you, right? You really have trouble. So, like force meeting force. I was lucky enough to be involved with martial arts and has been teaching for almost 30 years. And I certainly there learned about force. Like if we're talking about karate, for that matter, karate is a really hard form of martial arts, and I bash you and you bash me, and we fight it out like that. And then, of course, you have the softer, more gentle arts where you're using the opponent's force coming at you to actually bypass it. And as the person, slides past you, you slap him in the back of the neck, right? Or whatever, right? I used to say to the kids, it's like an oncoming train. Right? If you're a hard style, then you would stand in front of the train and try to stop it. But if you're a soft style, you'll step beside the oncoming force, like it's almost like welcoming visitors into your house, right? You're saying, you step aside so they can walk in through the passageway, and as they go through, you slap them in the back and, keep them on their way, right? So there's many styles like this. Of course, most of them originating, or if I not say all of them, originating from Tai Chi, all right? The Chinese form of well, you can call it shadow boxing if that's what you want, but slow motion. They call it meditation in motion, right? And I used to teach that for another 25 years or so, yeah? So that's very gentle form, and everything is very nice and neat, but also extremely fast and extremely dangerous, right? So dangerous, I don't mean as in fact of you trying to hit anybody else, but for people who are opposing someone who is a good Tai Chi component or exponent, I should say. But anyway, yeah, we're not talking about bashing up our kids here. We're talking about manipulating them. So again, force against force will never work. So if your kid is very forceful to you, then of course you must bow down. You must be the water. That's another Chinese thing, that the water is actually the most powerful when you think of it, because it can go in between everything. It just slides around, never opposes anybody, right? It just slides in around everything and consumes everything. So that's what you need to be. You need to be the water, yeah? So when your kids come up, I don't want to do that, right? If you immediately go, yes, you will do that because I am your parent and you need to do what I am saying, right? Like this, and yell and scream and jump, and by that time you've already lost control, right? So let's just diffuse the situation. If you have an oncoming force at you, you must bend. You must, like a young tree in the wind, you must swerve back. Right? You must swerve back, okay? Take no action, let the thing, let even if they call you all kinds of names under the sun and scream and yell and whatever, just calm the whole situation down. This happens, of course, also in rage, in the traffic, if something ever should come like that for you, and people sort of start yelling and screaming at you. Never oppose that. It's really dangerous because you escalate the situation. If you think this person is screaming at you and you're screaming at that, and then it keeps going like this. And where does it end? Where does it end? Yeah? There is no ending until one either walks away or falls down or whatever happens, right? Yeah? So that's why you can never follow that program, because there's no solution there, right? Now, one of the things I was taught in Japanese culture is that the woman there, right? Now, this is not because I'm being sexist or whatever, I'm just mentioning it, that this is the fact, or was the fact in the 18th century at least, right? And the women there would always be subservient to the husband, and the husband could come home like, remembering that the husband had the power as a samurai, for instance, to kill the whole family, right? If that was his pleasure, right or wrong, if he got a bit unhappy with the wife and whatever, there was none of this of let's sit down and talk about it. No, he just chopped her head off and then killed the kids and then got a new wife, right? So in those days, maybe you could excuse the woman for feeling a bit subservient, right? But anyway, she was also very smart because she actually had powers that some women don't even have today. She could choose to divorce if she wanted to, right? Yeah, she could. And she ran the household with an iron fist, right? And sometimes to the effect that the husband really was actually working for her, not the other way around, right? Now, she would also go out of her way to bring money and face to her husband, right? So she would sometimes sell her long, beautiful hair, so other people could wear wigs of that, right? And just to buy maybe swords or armor for their retainers and all this sort of stuff, right? But when it comes to arguments, she would always agree, and this is a beautiful way, right? You imagine, the husband, coming stomping in, going, rah, 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 you always this, you always this, and you always that, and you never do this, and whatever, right? And she would always go, yes, husband, of course you're right, of course you're right. And when you have someone like this agreeing to everything you say, you diffuse the situation. You take away all the stuff, right, that makes the other person angry, because the other person can only be angry for so long if somebody is agreeing with them. Yeah? So, yes, of course, husband, you're absolutely right. Yeah, I don't know how silly I was to think that way and to do this stuff and whatever, right? But now, this is an old lesson, but it also works today, right? If your kid is screaming and yelling and whatever, do not oppose it, right? Do not oppose it, but start agreeing, right? Start saying, hey, yes, you're right, absolutely, I can see it, yeah, now. And then the second step is to start asking questions about the person's problems, right? Or the way the person see the problem, right? And most times it would come back to that they feel they have been trodden on, right? Or not respected, or because our basic emotion is to be liked and to be appreciated and to feel important. And almost every single time you can look and you can find the problems, surrounding those feelings, right? Yeah, even for small children, yeah. You have a look, what didn't you do, right? So you can always find it easy and say, no, the kid is just a silly kid, and I'm the right one. But if you start looking inside yourself a little bit and say, well, hey, what's going on here? And you start asking questions and saying, well, why do you feel this way? Right? And you'll be surprised. There's some TV programs where they actually interview children, and there comes some amazing insights when you actually do that. So this is number one thing in parenting, if I can suggest something like that. You actually spend time with each of your children, separate away from everything else. Walk in nature or go shopping together. Going in nature is probably better, but spend time with them and ask them questions. Don't think, and I hear this question all the time, but they won't listen to me, and they won't, I have so much experience, and they just don't care, right? It's not right, they should know. But hey, we may have experience, but it doesn't mean that it applies to that person. And especially when you are young, you think you know everything, right? You did too. Your parents was trying to tell you something, and you said, "Oh, no, I'm not listening to that old, whatever." Yeah. So just remember the thing, right? And start asking questions. If you ask questions, then you would be able to draw out some of the feelings that actually make the child behave the way they do. There's a lot of different things, with different children and of course they all react in different ways, right? Now, and most unreasonable ways, right? And it's really difficult to sort of find out what's going on. You may not in one session, especially if the child is really, really upset, you may not in one session find out what's wrong. It's not a question of sitting down going, well, look here, little Jonathan, can you just tell mommy what's wrong, or daddy what's going on? Why are you so unhappy, and blah, 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 blah. Yeah? No, you may have to do that over a series of times that you actually spend time doing that. Now, did I always do that? No, I certainly did not, and I regret not doing it, because I'm a very hard-headed person myself, and though I think I have a reasonable amount of knowledge and experience, like it is the children that will teach us what we have and what we haven't, right? So if you listen and learn, then it would be a totally different. But you've got to start somewhere, and we don't have an instruction book. So, before, blaming people, just think about, well, what do you know and how can you do it better? Okay? So, this little rant and rave here is more or less and a way to perhaps not tell you what you should do, right? Because I have no right to do that, and I don't feel qualified to do that. But maybe it just opens up your thinking a little bit, or maybe you sort of start asking the questions that I did, and maybe you find different, the stuff, different solutions to different problems, right? So anyway, if we cannot, force them to do what we want them to do, what do we do then? Right? This is $1 million question, right? But when you think about how am I going to get you to do what you don't want to do, right? How would I be able to do that, right? Yeah, think about that for a while, right? I want you to buy this new sofa from me, or this new car, or this new house, or whatever, but you don't want to buy it. You're not interested at all in buying my sofa or my car, or in fact, you don't like me and you don't even want to talk to me, right? Yeah? So, what is it that makes people do, including you and me, do what we perhaps don't want to do? Good question, right? Yeah. But let's look at this. Do you go to work every day? Most of us do, right? Yeah. So, do you like it? Would you go there if they didn't pay you? No, of course not. Don't be silly, Nick. I'll be lying on the beach sipping tequilas, right? Or whatever they call them, yeah? But hey, you still do it, right? So there's the clue. There's a clue to how to talk about, getting people to do things without actually offending them, and without, pressing your will on their expectations, right? Okay? Yeah? And that is, let's look at the motivation for it, what's in it for them? What's in it for them? Okay? Now, then you can say, well, I shouldn't have to bribe people all the time, especially not my kids, right? Look, little Julia, if you eat your vegetables for a week, I'll give you a new Mercedes, right? That's lovely if you can do that. God bless you, right? Yeah, but if you cannot, then maybe we should just step back a little bit and sort of